Every successful organization begins with its people. At Incredible Workplaces, we help you build workplaces that inspire, engage, and endure. Recognition starts with certification. Our globally benchmarked evaluation celebrates organizations that foster engagement, inclusivity, and innovation. Certification is more than a badge. It's proof that your culture empowers people to excel. Through consulting, we partner with organizations to transform cultures, strengthen leadership, and build workplaces that adapt, innovate, and thrive. Your story deserves to be heard. With our employer branding solutions, we showcase your culture through featured videos, exclusive events, and media spotlights, ensuring you attract and retain top talent with pride. From recognition to transformation and employer branding, our services create workplaces that inspire people and elevate businesses. Are you ready to transform your workplace into a beacon of excellence? Partner with Incredible Workplaces today.
Thanks a lot, Incredible Workplace, for this recognition. Thank you.
Proud to be Incredible Workplaces.
I'm proud to share that MB Informatics has been certified as an incredible workplace.
Feeling proud to be recognized as Incredible Workplace certified.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody who is watching this show from all over the world. And today we are in episode 17 of the Culture Connect. And we have Jennifer Ives with us, who is the founder and CEO of the JSI Group and one of the AI strategists that we have today. So first of all, let me welcome Jennifer to our show. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to talk and have this conversation with you. And I think that today's topic is, first of all, very close to my heart because I consider myself both like, not a technology, but somebody who loves technology, and at the same time, the person who loves culture as well. So the topic for our audience today is how leaders can design human-centered AI-ready culture, right? Something that I think a lot of people in this age of AI are willing to understand more and more. But before we go there, Jennifer, let me ask about certain things on AI, because you've been interacting with a lot of leaders across the world on AI and AI strategies, right? And there are a lot of myths about AI and how it should be done. My first question to you, and we see a lot of news, right? Like I've seen some articles where people say, hey, I don't know, X percentage of company don't even think there is a ROI that they get from the AI project they are implementing, et cetera, et cetera. How does the leaders today are seeing AI in their business environment? What do you have to say? Let's start from there and then we go to the main topic.
Okay, I lost you just for a second. You hung for a second. So ask the question one more time and I will happily take it from there.
Oh, sorry about that. What my question was that how business leaders today are taking artificial intelligence in their business world. Like, are they more adaptive to it, and they're still confused? What do you think about it?
Yeah. So thank you for having me. So just so that everyone in your community knows a little bit about my background, I'm a technologist. I'm a geospatial engineer who moved into the strategy side of very fast growing, innovative technology companies, very data heavy and artificial intelligence related companies, both building products as well as putting services and out into the world and really helping companies around the world with their technology needs. About 10 years ago, I was in many conversations with CEOs around the world, and they were having questions around data engineering and what is a data lake, and what is deep learning, what is machine learning, kind of these questions that were precursors to what most people now think of as artificial intelligence, which is really generative AI. And these are the GPTs that are out there in the world, the large language models that so many people at all levels of organizations are using both in their personal and their professional lives. So many organizations that I work with through working with other organizations, other companies, and then the JSI group that I've had for many years. And I was just the recent I launched and led the AI Center for Government here in the U.S. And in all of those conversations, it really comes down to leaders, both technical and non-technical. So the non-technical leaders shouldn't feel like they're asking the questions, and the technical leaders aren't asking the questions. The technical leaders are asking the same questions. Kind of, what is AI? What is it not? What is the difference between automation and artificial intelligence? In the role, like the visual on that is automation is there's a candy bar, candy machine, and you go and kind of it knows on a daily basis what kind of candy you want or what kind of food you want on a daily basis. And then AI is really that, and because if you want to picture that, it's that, and one day you come and it assumes something else. It's learned from some of your behaviors and it offers you something different. It offers you something that you actually want more than what you've been coming and kind of being automated on a daily basis with. So these conversations are really around how do we start an AI project? What is artificial intelligence? How do we build a culture? Because that's what I try to bring them back to pretty quickly, is how do you build that culture? And that's really what you want to start with first and foremost, is building a culture of learning and development, building a culture of experimentation. It's why I speak so frequently about leaders today, right? Across all areas of the business, leaders being curious and courageous and purposeful. These are the kinds of cultures in which successful AI projects thrive. So let me pause there for a moment and see if that sparks any ideas or additional follow-up questions for you. I mean, it's really about explaining, listening, adjusting, and repeating in a culture that allows for experimentation and curiosity. And again, you've got to have that ongoing learning and development around artificial intelligence. It's not a one and done. And we can talk a little bit about specifics around what I mean by that in a minute. But yeah, did that spark anything for you?
Yeah, that does actually. And before I comment on that, I would like to ask the audience to feel free to ask your questions that you have in your mind. I'll try to take as many as I can in the best possible time that we have at this point in time. I'll try to pick them as the conversation goes. But Jennifer, one of the things that comes to my mind is that at least across the world, when we talk to the business leaders, and one of the things we have realized that they talk about is the ROI of these artificial intelligence projects that they are doing. It's not cheap to have those. That's the that's the understanding that we have. These are not cheap projects to work on. Do you get questions like ROIs from the business leaders on these projects?
I do. I get those questions all the time. And, the clickable headline these days, there was an MIT study released, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 weeks ago now. And it was very clickable. 95% of AI projects fail. And the reality of that is that I don't believe it was the best study out there to determine something like that. So let me talk a little bit about that study and then share how you can be successful when you're starting these projects. So the study shared kind of 95% of enterprise AI projects fail. It was a very small sample size. It was 52 organizations, and the title of that was enterprise. So it didn't look at small and mid-sized businesses. It looked at enterprise businesses, and it is known that in enterprise, you're not going to actually really start to see the ROI within probably 12 to 18 months. You will start to see incremental ROI, but the ROI that they were looking at, they looked at, again, just across 52 organizations, and they looked at it at 6 months. And here's the key, here's the kicker. They spoke with the executives at that company. Now, at 6 months, the ROI that you're going to see is actually with your frontline employees. It's with the talent who is working with and benefiting from the AI that you've put in place. So again, small sample size, looked at it at 6 months, spoke with the wrong people. If you're going to try to see how well that project is working, what the ROI is at that point at 6 months, it's not you're not going to go to the executives on that. You're going to go to the your frontline employees. So there's this kind of fallacy that AI projects fail. Now, there is some reality to it because most organizations jump into artificial intelligence because investors have asked them to, boards have asked them to. They're, if they're publicly traded, they're getting a lot of pressure. Like, what kind of AI are you using? And if I hear the phrase, sprinkle some AI into that one more time. I mean, if I had $1 for every time I've heard that, I would start my own AI lab, because people are looking at the quick wins. And artificial intelligence is something where you have to first identify the challenge, the problem you're trying to solve, which, by the way, is not specific to artificial intelligence. That is a business question that we've been asking for, I would say, hundreds of years, right? For many, many years. What is the business challenge you're trying to solve? And most of the time, the vast majority of organizations across private, public, nonprofit, they jump in with let's apply AI somewhere. Let's apply AI versus what are we actually trying to solve? What is the problem? Where is the friction point that we have identified either internal to our organization or we've identified it in a product or a service that we're providing external to our organization? So it really is that question of what problem are we trying to solve? So that's one piece of it, and we can talk a little bit more about that, Govind. The other piece of it is establishing a culture. There is an actual culture with artificial intelligence that you see with companies and organizations that are succeeding, and they're really seeing the return on investment from artificial intelligence, and those who are not. Again, those organizations, and it sounds simple, and in theory it is, except the follow through needs to happen, right? And the simplicity of it is you have to have an organization where people feel safe to take chances, right? They need to have a curiosity, and that needs to be built into the culture. Are you allowing your team members to be curious? Are you allowing them to come up with ideas? Are you allowing them to raise their hand and say, I'm seeing this friction point, without fear of losing their job to artificial intelligence? So that's another piece that I want to share, and we can talk about this further also, is that artificial intelligence is not here to replace human beings. You need human beings to do the creative thinking, the human thinking, and allow, as Cassie Kozyrkov, who used to be the chief decision scientist at Google, often says, the human beings do the thinking while artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence does the thunking. So again, it just gets back to your employees need to feel safe enough to experiment, to be curious, and in particular to raise their hand and say, I'm seeing these friction points. I'd like to try a couple of things. May I have permission? And then work through some internal, and we can go through some of that as well, without fear of losing their job. And that's a very real fear around the world because of the headlines of, mass layoffs, and AI is going to, just hundreds and thousands of, depending on the company. What that next headline doesn't say is that within a few weeks, within a few months, those same companies are actually hiring back human beings because artificial intelligence, again, is doing the thunking. You've got to have human in the loop and humans to do the thinking. Now, they may be hired back with a different title. That is a reality. They may be hired back with a different title because their work may slightly change in terms of how they're interacting with that problem set or with that role that they have. But the human beings are coming back. So again, let me pause there for a moment. I shared kind of 4 different buckets of information that we might want to get into. But what are some thoughts, or what are some additional questions around kind of the 4 buckets that I just shared?
Yeah, I think I would like to dive into 2 particular things. One is about the solving the business problem, and the second is the culture piece of it. And because most of our audience is right now from the HR field, and as the HR, they're always concerned about the impact of any change in the technology on people and the culture. So maybe I'll pick that first, Jennifer, with you. Mm-hmm. And I think the examples you gave was some certain example that was coming to my mind as well, like the example of organizations firing people, but at the same time, then they after some time they realize that maybe it's not a good idea, they need to take them back. But you also said it very rightly that even today, even when we see articles by MIT on 95% organizations not getting ROI, but still I don't see a kind of investment going down for AI projects, because still organizations are interested to invest in AI, and that still makes the fear of losing job, or do we need to have upskill ourselves or reskill ourselves on certain other technology is going very high. Now, in that case, the question that comes to the HR mind, or maybe the business leaders who are ultimately responsible for culture, the question it comes to their mind, what can they do as business leaders to make sure while they're implementing the AI projects in the organization? I'm sure you must be in the part of many of them. What can they do to make sure that people have a trust that, well, they will not lose their job, I don't know, like maybe their salary will not be cut or something like that, or how they will be included in this process of AI project implementation. What are your views, and what advice you will give it to the business leaders to make sure that the people are trusting and they're inclusive?
Yeah, yeah. You need to have open, honest conversations with your teams. I often share that and speak with leaders about the fact that AI isn't here to replace people. That many headlines, and there are different thoughts of that. My particular view, and the view that I share and work with many organizations around the world and we implement together, is that AI it's a Seema Alexander and Noel Russell have a wonderful conversation. They're AI experts, and they often talk about, Noel Russell in particular often talks about artificial intelligence as a skills escalator, right? And in terms of human beings, and it should not be a conversation around replacing people. That is not how companies and organizations, again, private, public, nonprofit, should be thinking about this. It should be how is artificial intelligence, again, kind of creating this escalator of additional skills and additional capabilities for your employees, for the talent in your organizations. AI is absolutely going, and it is already replacing parts of jobs. Again, go back to the phrase that I used, the thinking and the thunking. It's replacing parts of jobs, and it should. It can automate and create efficiencies in pieces of jobs. It should not replace the human being. And the question I really ask back to human resources leaders and other people leaders and other leaders, within the C-suite is, where are your friction points? What is the problem you're trying to solve? Where have you identified friction points? And which parts of artificial intelligence free your people to do more meaningful work, right? How can they do more meaningful work to augment your business, your organization, your nonprofit? And empowered teams will see artificial intelligence as an amplifier, not a threat. And it's a very specific conversation, a very honest conversation that leaders need to have with themselves as a leadership team, and then with their people. And it's when that shift begins, when leaders themselves have more curiosity, and when leaders themselves, because many times I will go into these rooms, right, with the C-suite, and they themselves are not using artificial intelligence tools in their own life, personally or professionally. And so if they're not using the tools themselves, if they haven't been curious around what the tools can do, even at a small level, and they're not sharing what they've learned, it does create a concerning culture, because it puts doubt in people's minds, right? It puts doubt in, if I'm working for an organization and my leaders are not talking about artificial intelligence, they're not sharing how they're using it in their own personal life or how they're using it in their job, then it invariably, in research study and companies that I work with and organizations I work with, time after time, will say, kind of, there tends to be this divide between having these open, honest conversations and allowing your people, your talent, to feel comfortable, to exhale a little bit, and to also share how they're using it before talking about how you're going to use it internal to the organization. So it's this kind of learn out loud mindset that I really encourage and that I've seen many organizations do very, very well with. There have been some technology-based, high-growth technology-based organizations who were not AI first, that when I shared this with them, individually to those organizations, they really latched on to this learn out loud mindset. These are tech companies. They're used to being creative around problem solving. And so when they thought to themselves when they took forward kind of this learn out loud mindset, it really changed kind of how everything worked within the organization. And then you started to see teams having open, honest conversation about friction points and identifying those friction points, and also helping each other with, hey, this is how I use it in my personal life. Have you tried this before? And hey, I think this could work for us on our team. Let's give it a try. Those sorts of things. So, this learn out loud mindset is really helpful.
And I can imagine, when you're speaking, I can imagine an organization where people are talking about the different kind of tools and platforms they're using that are AI enabled and helping them to do their job well. Well, Jennifer, I do see when I talk to leaders, I do see that the employees nowadays are using AI enabled platforms. Looks like that every platform now has some sort of AI in it. So, but I don't know whether we are talking about that small AI that we're working on or the big projects on AI. But I think the message that you wanted to give to the HR leaders here is that I think the starting point is to have conversation about it, right? So
Yes.
don't see AI as a threat. Maybe let's have started conversation. I think you said it very rightly that I think people need to start seeing how AI can add value to what they are doing, or take whatever kind of a mandate or operational work they are doing, so that they can add more value to the organization. I think that is the way the HR leaders should start initiating that conversation, because the more you talk about it, I think the more that fear of AI taking your job will go away, and you will start adopting AI practices.
Yeah.
So by the way,
For sure. And the fear of AI taking your job, it's real. And I don't want to kind of lightly walk away from that. It is HR leaders and leaders in general, it is their responsibility, again, to have these open, honest conversations, to talk about how the organization is thinking about leveraging artificial intelligence. And I would strongly encourage that it is a conversation around how to augment their work, right? The frontline workers. How can we help you do, augment what it is that you're doing and making more of an impact? Again, I would visualize that escalator of skills. These are skills that are going to help your talent today, and it will help your organization almost immediately, right? So even if you find a friction point and internally, you've got some tools that you've approved, you've got an AI policy in place for your organization, and you've got some governance guardrails in place. Those tools, you're right, there are tools that already have artificial intelligence baked into them. We, the capital W around the world, have been leveraging artificial intelligence without calling it artificial intelligence for years. It's quite the marketing coup over the last 2.5 years to all of a sudden kind of bring forward the term artificial intelligence, because it has been baked into many of the tools that all of us have been using for many, many years. The simplest one is Google search, right? Artificial intelligence was on the back end of Google search before anyone was saying Google search has artificial intelligence. When anyone was using Alexa, right? Voice, that's artificial intelligence. So this explosion in just the wording artificial intelligence, the marketing around it in the last 2.5 years has been really fascinating. So one of the things is to share openly and honestly. First, as an executive team, you've got to get real and very quickly as an executive team with what artificial intelligence means to your organization, because that's only through truthful conversations with your employees, with your frontline workers, that you can then create this. And I've seen it over and over again. Once that happens, there's this incredible the incredible surge in ideas and creativity, in people wanting to work together on, on solving the, like, what is the problem we want to solve? Oh my gosh, our team has come up with 14 friction points that we've identified. Which one are we going to try to solve? Like, which one use case are we going to try to solve? So again, when you can create trust and a culture of creativity and curiosity, and people understand that their jobs are not at risk, that leaning into the technology actually helps them as human beings and as employees in the organization, and that they're going to be contributing, that's one of the best first steps that you can take. And with that said, it's critical, as I mentioned, to have honest conversations. It's critical to share how it is that your organization is thinking about implementing or leveraging additional AI, internal and external. And it's really important, as you mentioned, to talk about the platforms that are already using artificial intelligence that you're already using many times inside of organizations. So when you can start naming those and identifying for people, it's very helpful. Here is some reality that everyone should really take home and pull, keep close, keep front and center with them, is that I don't believe that we should be living in a world where AI is going to take jobs. I do believe that those who have leaned into artificial intelligence and they are adapting and they are curious about the new technologies, and they're demonstrating that for and with their employers, those are the people who you're going to, like, if you get 2 resumes in and it's for a job, and someone has, maybe it's a financial position, and someone, they have equal amount of experience, and someone on that resume, and when they come into interview and they talk about the tools that they're using and the certifications or the conferences that they've attended, or again, they're demonstrating that curiosity and that ability to be adaptable, right? To adjust with the technology, to be adaptable as to what's coming forward and what's coming next. That is where, when we're talking about employees and when we're talking about those in the job market, that is something that I stress very specifically. Is I would hope that AI isn't taking your job. I do believe that someone who is leaning into the curiosity and the agility and the knowledge of artificial intelligence is going to, like, when those 2 resumes come in, 10 times out of 10 in today's day and age, HR leaders, hiring managers, organizations are going to lean into the person who has the adaptability, is showing that curiosity, is demonstrating that I am leaning into what is here, what the technology is, and what it might be in the future, and how that applies to my specific job in finance and operations, in marketing, in software development, right? All of these areas.
Yeah, and I think one of the key part of that is that because you, Jennifer, I know that you've been working with so many technology companies, and I think the change is the only constant there. So every
Yes.
single time the technology change, the people need to learn. I think the one problem that I see right now, the technology is changing so fast that even before we cop up with one, the other comes up, and it's very hard for people to cop up with that. And talking about the learning culture, because it's important in the technology company, but even in this age of AI, as you correctly said, that people need to be curious, should have curiosity to learn more things from AI perspective. And we are getting a lot of questions from the audience at this point in time on things. And I think you have kind of touched upon those, but I'll take particularly one that is talking about the learning culture at this point in time. I'll put it on the screen for you, Jennifer. And this question is from Akash, and what he's trying to understand is, what is the best way to build AI fluency across all level of an organization, not just leadership? And I know that you said that many a times you don't find leaders also were using the AI, but other than the curiosity and all this stuff, what do you have any advice for Akash that what can be done to build AI fluency across all level of the organization?
I do. Okay. So there are kind of 3 things here. One, this is a great question. Thank you for asking the question. One, you mentioned leaders. So research shows globally that less than 20% of leaders across public, private, nonprofit have their own level of AI fluency. So we're talking 80% of leaders are requiring this of their teams, and they don't have a level of AI fluency. So let's start with leaders. Leaders, I need you to lean in. I need you to start getting really curious about artificial intelligence. Do you need to become a data scientist? You do not. Do you need to understand, specific to your organization, the types of questions that you should be asking about AI strategy, about AI governance, about AI policy, about different aspects like data? Where does it come from? What is the problem we're trying to solve? Leaders, I implore you, it is not okay with the speed at which artificial intelligence and this innovation is moving, that less than 80% of leaders around the world have an AI fluency to be making these decisions, to feel confident about making decisions for themselves, for their teams, and for their organizations. So there's kind of the leadership piece. And the question that was asked is really more around the teams. But first and foremost, leaders, I need you to lean in, because you're going to be you're already asking a lot of your employees, and routinely, I'm not seeing you do the same thing. I'm not seeing the curiosity and the knowledge and the learning desire in leadership. And then when I work with them, like it turns on a dime. We talk about, I mean, all it takes is talking about in your personal life, what are some ways that you're using a GPT, that you're using a large language model to plan your next trip, to, like, there are so many ways that you can just start to take little baby steps into large language models and the power behind kind of the friction points that it can solve. So that's one piece. The question was really about, how do you create this in your organization? One is, you need to be talking about it. You need to really be understanding, put some policies in place so that people have guardrails, so they understand, oh, this is what my organization, these are the expectations, here are the artificial intelligence guardrails. And you're right, innovation is moving incredibly rapid, very, very quickly. So Ethan Mollick, who's a professor at Wharton, often said famously, kind of a year and a half ago, that if you stopped all innovation today, it would take 5 years for human beings to catch up. Within a year, that jumped to 10 years. So you're right. It can be overwhelming to think about all of the innovations that are coming. However, if you're not starting, right, if you don't start somewhere, and I guess it's not the if you don't start somewhere, my request of leaders that are here today during this conversation are, you must start somewhere. Okay, so some of the places that you can start. One, you can create these, I mean, I love it. I'm just going to jump into some tactical, but you can create curiosity circles, right? And these are kind of monthly 30-minute sessions where teams demonstrate how they've used artificial intelligence to solve a problem, however small. And again, with artificial intelligence, and not to get too much into the actual architecture and implementation, you want to start very small. This is not something where you are going and spreading AI and AI use cases, taking on these massive AI use cases. You want to start very small. You want to start with one friction point. You want to start with, where could my team save 10% of their time? Where could my team save 15 or 20% of their time in a week or in a month? And the teams need to share that information with you, right? That's not something that you can come in and dictate to them. They need to. This is artificial intelligence is a top down and bottom up. Top down, the culture has got to be one of curiosity, right? And safety. In terms of kind of you're feeling that you've got these guardrails, you're feeling like the organization is having a truthful conversation with you about artificial intelligence and augmented intelligence, how they want to use it, how they want to look for ways to leverage it within an organization. So that's the top down. You've got to have some strategies in place. You've got to have policies in place, right? That's the top down. The bottom up is that's where the use cases come from. So you may find those use cases in finance. You may find them in marketing. You may find them in sales. You may find them in operations. And by the way, may find them. You are going to find them across all of those organizations. So these curiosity circles, this is one of my favorites. I've seen it work so well over and over again, is really the sharing of information coming together. And by the way, it doesn't have to be monthly. It can be weekly. It can be bi-weekly. But let's just talk about curiosity circles in terms of kind of monthly 30-minute sessions. People are sharing how they're using it, either individually or as teams, and they're also tracking. So you need to have some metrics along with some of the, even when they're just kind of identifying friction points and starting to apply some of the tools or some of the solutions right away. You've got to have some metrics that go along with that, because that's something else, and that's when you get into more of the how you identify. And I map this out with boards and with leadership teams all the time, how to identify where those friction points are, and then how do you put some of these steps in place to
I love
create those
the
efficiencies.
concept. Yeah, Jennifer, I love the concept of the curiosity circle, and I think I'm going to try this with my team as well, because
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing way to just ask about what AI tool they're trying nowadays and how that can help.
And you know what? And when you share, Govind, so having that with your team and when leaders share along with their teams, right? It demonstrates that we're all learning together. And the beautiful thing about that is these curiosity circles build both AI fluency and psychological safety. So when they see, right, when teams see their leaders leaning in and sharing also how they're using it, it 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 shares a psychological safety that cannot be underscored enough.
Yeah, and I think I would say that there are multiple tools right now, Jennifer, that I am using in my organization. Plus, but I know that others are using as well. And when I'm thinking, like while you're speaking, I'm thinking about the ROI piece of it, the amount of time that has saved, plus the efficiency it brings, like the quality of the work that comes out of it is really great. So I think there is definitely ROI that we see from those use of those tools at least.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I want to, and I'm happy to share this with, I can share this with you, and you can share it with your community. I often, and I often will talk about how to calculate the ROI on repetitive tasks, right? Because there's a real challenge to not starting and not figuring out how you're going to leverage artificial intelligence. And so first and foremost, it's identify the task, right? So here is one framework for calculating some kind of initial ROI. You want to identify the task. What is that repetitive task? Estimate the weekly time spent. So you're going to ask your team members to like really think through, what's the repetitive task? How much time is being spent on a weekly basis? That's hours per week per employee. And then you want to calculate kind of the total annual hours, right? That this friction point is causing your teams to slow down. And then you can calculate the labor costs in there. And then you can estimate the AI savings. Because at the very least, even if you're not sure how much time or energy is going to save, so that it frees your teams up to be working on maybe even more meaningful work, but you could just apply a 10%. Might this save 10%, right? Might this free 10% of my amazing team's time so that they can be doing more meaningful work? For instance, in call centers, they have identified, many research studies have identified that artificial intelligence has been able to really handle kind of some of your typical calls. It frees up 48% of time for your employees to work on the more complex calls, right? And that the customer service that is a result of that, when you've got employees who can dig into and lean into more complex calls in a call center. So it's those kinds of, and again, I can send you this ROI calculation because I think it's a really great kind of almost back of napkin, quick and dirty way for leaders and team members to really understand, if you identify a friction point or repetitive task, then how do you kind of look at it and think about the ROI on that particular task? And that's even before we're talking about broader scale and maybe larger artificial intelligence use cases and projects within an organization.
Awesome. Love to have that and share with the community here as well. So thank you for that. We are coming closer to the end of the conversation, but there's so much of list of the question that I have with me. I'll take the one that I think is really interesting, and because it basically talks about while you're integrating the AI into the workplace culture. So what common, like I'm sure that, if you have some examples where you have started implementing the AI and then you started seeing some kind of challenges coming up from a culture perspective, especially the fear, safety, people not being skilled to do the job, etc. What do you have to say, and how to overcome that if there are such challenges that are there?
Yeah, that's a great question and a wonderful way to kind of round out our conversation. So there are two main areas that I see routinely across all different kinds of organizations. One is the psychological safety. It is real. I don't think we can underscore that enough. And we could have an entire conversation on psychological safety within organizations when it comes to artificial intelligence, the psychological safety piece. So the more that you can, as leaders, ensure that there is psychological safety. And we talked through a couple of examples today with the curiosity circles and learning circles and kind of other ways that you can have these conversations with your employees. Psychological safety. The other is skilling. So this is something that certainly in people's own time and in their world, I would like them to lean into, learning a little bit about artificial intelligence and how it can help in their day-to-day world. Again, whether they're looking at their next trip and how to plan that, or they're looking at recipes, or they're thinking of how to save money on a weekly basis with their food budgets, like all sorts of things that large language models can help with on a day-to-day basis. That kind of curiosity is wonderful and people doing their own learning. However, internal to an organization, it is the organization's responsibility that if you are asking your employees to learn this new technology, to step in, to have these conversations with you, you must be sharing knowledge with them, right? You must be, and it's an ongoing learning and development effort. It is not a one and done. It is not, here's your 2 hours of artificial intelligence training every year. And it also doesn't need to say, it doesn't need to be, here are your 5 hours every week and you must do, right? It's many ways that you can weave it in. It's the curiosity circles. It's maybe on a quarterly basis, bringing in external speakers to share different ideas around skilling in artificial intelligence. It's teams meeting on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis to talk through the different back ends. If they're already using some tools that the organization has approved, it's a way to talk through how is that artificial intelligence positively impacting that particular, financial platform or marketing and sales product and platform. But it is an ongoing, this is not something where you can just say to your employees, well, you should know about artificial intelligence. You should be learning about this on your own. It is, you need to be encouraging and supplying and supporting the AI knowledge for them, right? That learning and development. So again, we go back to the escalator. How are you going to help them on this escalator in terms of increasing their skills? Because it only comes back to help you as an organization. It only helps you more to become more robust, to be expanded, like whatever your goals are as an organization, right? To expand, to increase revenue, to increase footprint, like whatever it is, whatever your goals are, helping your teams with the learning and development. So it's those two things, learning and development and psychological safety. 10 times out of 10, those are the challenges that when we go to implement, when we start to, when we're talking about AI fluency, and then we go to the next step, which is the architecture, right? The design, and then the implementation. 10 times out of 10, it's those two things, usually working hand in hand, psychological safety and not enough skilling internally to the organization. I hope that's helpful.
Awesome. And yeah, thank you very much, because I think there are HR leaders in this call right now. I still see a lot of questions coming up.
Well, I am happy. If you want to share some of those top questions with me after, I am very happy to share some thoughts back with you so that you can share them out with your community. And I'm also happy to share some frameworks that maybe we talked about or maybe we didn't get to, that would be, kind of some 3-step frameworks for the leaders that are part of your community. I'm very happy to do that.
Well, I was about to ask that, so you already offered it. So basically, you can go to the LinkedIn Live recorded version. That you say all the comments there. If you can just answer them, it will be awesome. Because we don't have that much of time. I think that you have touched upon them. It's not that I think we have not covered. We did, but I think that needs a very specific attention to answer those questions.
Okay.
But what I was saying, Jennifer, was that I also believe that psychological safety and skilling are two key things right now. And looking at from the culture perspective, as we are wrapping this up, um, when you're speaking, I was trying to visualize as an organization where people, as opposed to getting afraid of AI and taking job, maybe we can build a culture where they're excited about it and there's a new challenge and they can learn, right? Especially in the technology world, because they have seen changes coming up time to time. So it's not new for them. Maybe what's new is that AI has actually done a lot in terms of the changes, and the work that AI can do right now was not there before. But still, if the leaders can build that psychological safety and invest in the scaling of the team member, I think the game can change. Before we close, any last I don't know, last lesson, last input, like feedback that you want to give it to the HR leaders, particularly your business leaders, from your side as a AI strategist?
Yeah, gosh, thank you. I just want to share that AI isn't just changing technology. It really is revealing who we are as leaders, and it's revealing it very quickly. So as individuals, be very aware of that, right? As individuals and also on your leadership team, because it is revealing, and I'll say it again slowly, it's revealing who we are as leaders, and it's revealing it quickly. Remember that curiosity and organizations that move forward and encourage curiosity opens the door every time in life, right? Every time. Courage really helps us keep walking through that door. So we didn't talk too much about this, but being a courageous leader in today's day and age means more today, I think, than in years past. Really having the courage to, as I mentioned, continue to walk through that door, and then having purposeful connection, and those aren't just words. Again, AI magnifies all of those things, and it identifies very quickly for your employees who's curious, who's courageous, who is purposeful. And again, it magnifies it. Artificial intelligence and decisions internal to a company magnifies those things very quickly for leaders. So hopefully that's helpful. And I'm going to share some frameworks, and you and I can go through these questions and try to answer some more offline as well. Thank you so much for having me today.
It is our pleasure, Jennifer, to have you here. And I think I would like to tell the audience the one key lesson that I got from it is, as an individual, not anything else, is that don't see AI as your replacement, but maybe some like a supplement that you can use to get rid of your operational job and find time to do something more powerful. So I love that one. Keeping that in mind, thank you very much for being part of the show.
Thank you. Thank you. And if anyone needs my help, they know where to find me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Awesome. So ladies and gentlemen, this is Jennifer Ives with us, founder and CEO of the GSI Group, talking about AI and her experiences of dealing with a lot of business leaders who are planning to implement AI, or they have questions around AI. So thank you very much, Jennifer, once again. And we'll just sign off today. And I would like to thanks Jennifer and all my audience to be part of this conversation. And we're going to meet you next Thursday, 5:30 IST, again with another leader for another topic. Till then, bye-bye.